We don't know what set this man off. We don't know why he chose to kill his loved ones. And we may never know.
Life is so beautiful. And what makes it so beautiful is when you look me in my eyes and you told me that you love me. And I lied and told you I accept that love. But truth is, I cannot accept love because I am a broken man. I'm more broken than a total car without the help of a tow truck. I asked the Lord to remold me, rebuild me, reaccept me. But the Lord told me he had to have a conversation with the devil before approval. So what do you think I look like to society? Society laugh at me. Society joke about me. So when I walk this earth, I'm laughed at. Laughed at from the deaf, from the blind, from the weak and the broken. So when you look at me, just please accept me for who I am.
In the late hours of June 25th, 2024, 3 females, a 48-year-old grandmother, a 31-year-old mother, and a 29-year-old mother, were found dead in different parts of the city. But what connects all of them? At around 9 p.m., the Manatee County Police responded to a 911 emergency at a home on Palomino. But when investigators got to the reported apartment, they found a woman dead in her car. She had been shot by her cousin, the same person she was secretly having an affair with. As the investigation unfolded, they realized this was only the beginning. The killer was on a rampage to take down anyone who knew his secret. In fact, he had killed his own mother a few hours ago and was on the way to take down 3 more people.
First chilling details in a Manatee County killing spree leaving 3 people dead. You're watching 10 Tampa Bay. I'm Frank Wiley.
And I'm Carolina. Lead in tonight for Courtney. The Manatee County Sheriff's Office says the suspect was on his way to hurt more people in Georgia before getting into a shootout.
This is the disturbing story of Javante Bryce. 28-year-old Javante Bryce was born on January 15, 1995, to his mother, 48-year-old Tanisha Scott, and Javante Bryce Sr. He grew up in a large family alongside his siblings, cousins, and nephews in Bradenton, Manatee County, Florida. He completed high school at King Senior High in Tampa, Florida, where he excelled in football and track. He then furthered his education at Minnesota State University, where he continued to thrive in track and often shared that college life was the best time of his life. Due to his fun-filled life and outgoing personality, at the age of 21, he would end up getting a girl that he was dating at that time pregnant. In December 2016, the lovers would welcome their baby boy, but that would only be the beginning of his baby father spree. By March of 2018, Javante welcomed his second child, a little girl. He seemed to be beyond happy to be a father. He would share their pictures and videos on social media, always talking about how much he loves them. But something would end up happening that would set off a chain of events that no one could have imagined. Many believe that Javante's mother, Tanisha, may have discovered his secret relationships with men. Not only that, 31-year-old Cheryl Carter, one of Javante's baby mamas, as some suspect, she may have known about his hidden life. Javante on his path never came out to agree or dispute their speculation, so none of his family members confronted him about it. After all, it is solely his decision to want to come out of the closet or not, but whether the speculation was true or not, one thing was certain: Javante wasn't slowing down when it came to having children. Javante would go on to have 10 more children with multiple baby mamas, but sadly, none of the relationships he had with their mother ever lasted. As he struggled to navigate the complexities of his life, in fact, he was placed on medication to help manage his mental health. However, after stopping his treatment, he was prohibited from seeing his children until he was stable again. At one point, he was living in Georgia with his girlfriend when she asked him to leave because of his mental state. Javante then returned to Florida and moved in with his mother, who took him in hoping to help him get back on his feet. But tensions quickly escalated, and the household became increasingly unlivable for her. Unable to cope with the situation, his mother made a difficult decision to pack her things and leave. She moved into a motel with her boyfriend and 2 of her daughters. This only deepened Javante's sense of abandonment. He believed that everyone was turning against him, standing in the way of him being with his children. His frustration and anger continued to build, but no one could have predicted the devastating events that were about to unfold. On June 23, 2024, Javante posted a caption on his social media, "When you have so many options, you choose the wrong option," followed by another 2 posts, one of a video with his 2 daughters, and said, "I may be broken hundreds of women's hearts, but I'll never break your hearts. I love you so much." Both your first words were dada. Little did his followers know things would tragically take a horrible turn. On June 25, 2024, just 2 days after Javante had made these posts, according to the Manatee County Sheriff's Office, the horrifying events began sometime around 9 p.m. on June 25, 2024. On that day, Javante had traveled to Palomino Trace Apartments in the city of Palomino, where one of his sisters and the mother of one of his 10 children lived. When he arrived, he walked straight into the apartment, locked eyes with his ex-girlfriend, and said the most horrifying thing anyone would ever want to hear. Javante looked at his ex-girlfriend and the mother of some of his children and said, "I have to unalive you." Panic filled the room, but in a moment of desperation, Javante's sister managed to talk him out of shooting the ex-girlfriend. She later told investigators that his behavior that night was very strange.
This all started sometime before 9 o'clock when Mr. Bryce traveled to the Palmetto Trace Apartments in Palmetto, in the city of Palmetto. Inside one of those apartments was his sister and a mother of one of the many children that Mr. Bryce has. When he walked into the apartment, he looked at the ex-girlfriend and said, "I have to kill you." Somehow, the sister was able to talk him down and talk him out of him shooting this ex-girlfriend. She later told investigators that he was acting very strange, not really sure what was going on with him.
But while she may have stopped one tragedy, the nightmare was far from over. Javante's rampage was just beginning. After Javante left the apartment at 9:17 p.m., he traveled to Motel 6 in East Bradenton, the motel where his mother, her man, and 2 of his little sisters had gone to lodge. Javante got to their room, and just like he had done with his ex-girlfriend and baby mama, he looked at his mother and said, "I'm sorry." His mother was frantic and thinking he might have hurt someone. She asked, "What did you do?" Javante didn't reply, but instead, he raised his gun, pointed it directly at her, and pulled the trigger 3 times in front of the boyfriend and the 2 young girls. Javante's mother would later die at the scene. Sadly, that was just the beginning of all the crimes he intended to carry out that night. So, immediately after shooting his mother, Javante then took to his social media where he posted a cryptic message on his Facebook. He wrote, "Love," with a heart emoji. At around 9:30 that same night, Javante then traveled to Palomino to the 900 block of 26th Street East, where his 29-year-old cousin, Sequoia Starquez Bryce, lives. Javante met her outside her apartment where she was trying to get into her vehicle to leave. He pointed at her the same gun he had used to kill his mother and pulled the trigger. Sequoia fell to the ground, breathing her last breath. A few minutes after Javante had left the scene of his crime, he took to his Facebook again. This time he wrote, "I love you, bae. Sequoia Bryce. See you in hell." Sadly, Sequoia later passed away about an hour after the shooting at the local hospital. She was a young, vibrant mother who sadly left behind 2 young sons who also, unfortunately, lost their father a few years back, so now they have no parents. But Javante was not done. After that Facebook post, he was on the way to killing the 3rd person. At approximately 10:04 p.m., he arrived at a residence on the 4800 block of 51st Street East. This was an apartment of yet another ex-girlfriend and baby mama who lived with her new partner. And just as he had done earlier, he pulled the trigger again, but this time hitting his ex-girlfriend and baby mama's partner, 31-year-old Chanel Carter, who many affectionately called Pig. Just after the shooting, Javante would go on his social media and post, "Pig, I love you, but you had to go." Like Sequoia, Chanel was a young, vibrant mother raising sons, including one she shared with Javante. At this point, there are 3 crime scenes across the city. The police and Javante's family have been informed, and the family confirmed that all 3 shootings were indeed done by Javante Bryce.
He traveled to the Motel 6 in East Bradenton. Inside one of those rooms was his mother, his mother's boyfriend, and 2 young juvenile sisters. He walked into that hotel room, looked at the mother and said, "I'm sorry." She asked, "What did you do?" And he shot her 3 times in front of the boyfriend and these 2 innocent young juveniles. He then travels into Palmetto to the 900 block of 26th Street East. One of his cousins was at a cookout at this residence. She's starting to get into her vehicle to leave. He then shoots her at that location. She later dies about an hour after this shooting at a local hospital.
Bryce's next deadly stop, his ex-girlfriend and co-parents' home on 51st Street.
He does not shoot or kill the girlfriend, but he shoots and kills the new partner.
As police scrambled to track Javante's movements, the family also revealed a terrifying new detail. They told investigators about the updates Javante had been making before and after each attack he had made on social media. Even more disturbing, his most recent post hinted that he wasn't done yet. They revealed that they suspect he may be headed to another ex-girlfriend's home in the state of Georgia to take her life as well, as he had just posted it.
At this point, we now have 3 homicide scenes and also an ag assault scene at Palmetto Trace. Investigators are constantly getting information. We know right away that the suspect is Javante Bryce. The family has been very cooperative. They tell us exactly what's going on. We find out that he possibly has another ex-girlfriend in the state of Georgia and that he is now traveling to that state to kill her.
The police knew they had to act fast and stop him before he reached Georgia and potentially claim another life. Immediately, a statewide alert was sent out to law enforcement across the state, warning them to be vigilant and to stop Javante before he could harm anyone else. It didn't take long before the sheriff deputies with the Hamilton County Sheriff's Department spotted Javante's vehicle, while officers were conducting a felony traffic stop at an Exxon parking lot in Jasper just as he was on his way to his ex-girlfriend and baby mama's house. He was driving with a woman in the passenger seat. According to law enforcement, this unknown passenger is believed to have been inside the vehicle during all of the shootings. When deputies pulled him over, the situation would take a tragic and violent turn that would change everything. When Javante pulled over his vehicle, he wasted no time as he jumped out of the car and opened fire on the officers. As expected, they in turn would return fire, and unfortunately, Javante got shot dead in the crossfire.
It says Bryce left the motel and went to a home in Palmetto and killed the young woman who was his cousin. And after that, he went back to Bradenton and killed the woman at his ex-girlfriend's house. All 3 murders happened in less than an hour. Deputies learned Bryce could have been heading to Georgia to kill another ex-girlfriend, so they put out a statewide alert. Hamilton County deputies spotted Bryce's car at about 1:30 this morning on I-75. They followed him to the Exxon gas station off exit 451. They say he got out of his car and started shooting at them. Deputies fired back and killed him. No deputies were hurt. A woman was in the car with Bryce. The Hamilton County Sheriff's Office says she was not hurt and is not facing charges. The Manatee County Sheriff says right now investigators don't know why Bryce would have done all of this.
Meanwhile, investigators began digging deeper to uncover the reason behind the shootings. And that's when a shocking revelation surfaced. In one of Javante's Facebook posts, someone close to the family revealed something that shocked everyone. A comment on the post claimed that Javante was having a relationship with his blood cousin, an alleged secret he had never wanted to expose. Others, including past police records, suggested that Javante had a history of mental health issues. He had been previously arrested for domestic abuse and had a risk protection order filed against him, restricting his access to firearms. Law enforcement officials noted that Javante had attempted to unalive himself at least twice in separate incidents. The Bradenton police described him as a significant danger to both himself and to others. In September of 2023, Javante Bryce was also charged with domestic battery by strangulation after Bradenton police reported that he struck a woman in the face and placed her in a chokehold while she sat in the passenger seat of his car. However, court records show the charges were later dropped. Adding to the disturbing pattern, a risk protection order was filed against Javante in August 2021 after investigators determined he had shot himself. Shockingly, the order expired in 2023, allowing him to regain access to firearms. But despite the history of crimes being linked to mental health issues, Javante appeared to know exactly what he was doing. He knew the locations, who lived where, and even posted on Facebook each time he shot someone, suggesting that his actions were intentional and aimed at silencing those who knew his secret. For a man who had carefully constructed the image of a devoted father of 12, the idea of being exposed must have felt like a threat to his very identity. Perhaps it was this overwhelming fear of judgment, especially from the woman who had brought him into the world. Perhaps this pushed him to the edge. It's believed that Cheryl, too, might have known about Javante's hidden life. The thought of her exposing his truth could have made Javante feel trapped, leading to her tragic end. What's truly heartbreaking is how close Javante was to all three victims. These were the people who should have been his support system, his family, his loved ones. Instead, they became his targets in a desperate attempt to protect his secrets. The events leading up to June 2024 are still under investigation, but some pieces of the puzzle have started to come together. Sheriff Rick Wells emphasized the need to give the family time to process the trauma and grief they were experiencing.
Before I get started, just wanted to say that our thoughts and our prayers go out to the families of the victims of this tragic event. We pray that God watches over them during this very, very tragic time.
Sheriff Wells further stressed that understanding Javante's mindset in the days leading up to the shootings was crucial. The investigations aimed to determine if there were any warning signs or factors that could have predicted his violent outburst. As authorities continue their work, they remained sensitive to the needs of the grieving family, ensuring that they received the support that they needed during this difficult time. It's hard to say exactly when Bryce snapped, but the pressure of living a double life was clearly getting to him. Reports suggest that Bryce had been acting increasingly erratic in the days leading up to the murders. Friends and family noted that he was more withdrawn, spending less time with his children, and appearing more agitated than usual. It's believed that Bryce felt trapped, fearing judgment from his family, his community, and even his children if this secret ever came out. So when the possibility of exposure loomed closer, Bryce's fear and paranoia spiraled out of control. Instead of confronting his truth, he made the unthinkable decision to silence those he believed could reveal his secret. The aftermath of this tragedy left the community in shock, mourning the devastating loss of Titamisha Scott, Sequoia Bryce, and Cheryl Carter, three beloved women whose lives were stolen in an instant. Their sudden, violent deaths have left an unfillable void in the hearts of their families and loved ones. But perhaps the most heartbreaking consequence of all is the impact on Javante's 12 children. They are now left without a mother, a grandmother, and a father. As they grow up, they will have to grapple with the painful truth that the man who gave them life also took away the very people who loved and cared for them the most. What do you think truly drove Javante Bryce to commit these horrifying crimes? Was it purely the fear of being outed, or were there deeper psychological factors at play? Let me know your thoughts in the comments.